You're listening to The Sister Trill with Danae and Kiveli.
Hi everybody and welcome to the second official episode of The Sister Trill. I'm Kiveli.
And I'm Danae.
And we're coming to you from our mutual home in Berlin. Today's episode is going to be all about relationships. Now that is romantic relationships, not professional relationships. And we're going to focus more on the emotional side, not the physical, sexual side, which is a whole episode by itself. But
and we're not going to be focusing on our relationship, right? Just like our relationships with other people.
Exactly. But before we dive into that, let's first cover what did we disagree on this week. So I'm ready. I have one ready. Do you also have one?
Yes, I have one ready. Because before we started, I didn't have one ready. But we start every podcast by saying one thing that we disagreed on this week. And I just would like to rehash the theme that we...
that
we started last week, which is the glass theme. Because for anyone that did not follow the last episode, Kiveli's thing that annoyed her about me was that I always took away her glasses and put them into the dishwasher, and she likes to have a glass around. So today I would like to say that what we disagreed on was that there was a moment in the house where there were no glasses in the kitchen. Because actually there were about 6 glasses in the room downstairs.
True, but
that Kiveli was using.
But like one was in the piano room for when I'm practicing. One is next to my bed for when I go to sleep. One was like when I sit and do my work next to my swing. One was coffee. One was my coffee glass, and I think the other was a coffee glass. Yeah, because I drink cold coffee at the moment because it's summer. Then one was like the coffee glass that I hadn't yet washed from the day before. So that's why there were quite some glasses here. Actually, I can't believe you couldn't come up with someone because there was such an obvious one this week, which basically was like which geographic location we work in the house.
Oh my God, that's so true, yeah.
Basically, the situation is I am a fan of working in a very comfy position. I like working in bed or definitely in my bedroom in very like comfortable, partially lying down positions on soft cushions with pillows and some nice background music and a little like cavey feeling. And then I likes working like in an upright position on a table, preferably without being able to lean anywhere, so she has to like keep that back straight and like everything is very focused and concentrated, like, you know, Spartan. So
I like to work just sitting up, and I like to place my iPad or laptop on a desk or on a table, and preferably on something that is higher so I don't go into that crunch, like not crunch, or hunched position, but that I can sit up straight and not have back pain. And yesterday evening, I spent
the first time, by the way, I usually always come up.
Anyway, one of the times that I spent the evening working on Kiveli's bed in the lying position where either I'm in the cobra yoga position where I have to like press my upper body up in order to access the iPad, or I'm in the like embryo position working sideways. And today I woke up and I could definitely feel it in my back, and first had to like detangle myself with some yoga.
I don't get it. I mean, these are like literally the most comfortable positions. You lie with your back against the pillows. Everything is soft. Everything is like safe. I don't know.
I mean, it's an actual thing. I've had this discussion with a couple of people, also with my boyfriend, and he's also on your side, by the way. He's a very much in bed worker, and it's something that really bothers me if I cannot sit on a chair and like at a table, especially if I'm typing. I find it really hard. But I think it's interesting. Let us know in the comments what you do. Are you someone that works in bed or in a lying horizontal position, or do you need to sit at a table, like at a desk, and work?
Well, that concludes the segment what we disagreed on this week. So let's get into the whole relationship topic. So before we start talking more about like specific things that happen and like our perspectives on some other things, I would like to ask you, like, growing up, when and how did you feel, when did you start thinking about this whole concept of boys as potentially romantic interests? Do you remember how these thoughts kind of started creeping in, and what like your first thoughts were about that?
I think thinking of boys as a romantic partner for me was kind of late. I was generally late to that party. I think, even thinking of something like a boyfriend or something like this, I must have been about, I don't know, like 7 or 8 years old when I started thinking about that possibility. And I remember being 7 or 8 years old because I was in, I think, 3rd grade, and I got a letter from a boy in my class that said, "Do you want to go out with me?" And I had to tick no, I didn't have to tick a box. It said yes or no. If it's a yes, and he had given me this picture of a mandala, and he said, if it's a yes, then give me the mandala at the end of the lesson. And it was
so sweet.
It was very sweet. And so I read it, and of course I liked him. And then at the end of the lesson,
he was your boyfriend.
He was my boyfriend.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the lesson, I went, and I didn't even like cutely or anything say, "Oh, thank you." I just kind of, because I was so shy about it, I just kind of like threw it on his desk. I was just kind of like, "Yeah, here you go." And then he was just like, "Oh, okay, thank you."
And do you remember that we went trick-or-treating with him?
Yes. Oh my God, yes.
Because I remember that so well, that we went trick-or-treating together. It was whole like, "Yeah, we're going with Danae's boyfriend." And I was like, "What?"
And I mean, with this boyfriend, nothing ever happened. We didn't even hold hands. Like, it didn't even go to that stage. We were just officially together for like a year.
That is so sweet. All right. Okay, next question would be, tell us your first kiss story.
Okay, my first kiss. Well,
I mean, I know the first kiss story, but I think it's a very sweet, I don't know, it's a very interesting story to share. Because I think we had very different first kisses.
Well, I mean, my first like real kiss. I was 14 years old, and it was in Salzburg during a master class. And when we had these master classes with our teacher, with the whole piano class, very often after we had these like kind of concerts or like performance practice evenings, we would then all go out together to a restaurant in the evening and eat, and like the older students would drink, and I wasn't one of the older students back then. And there was this boy, he was 18, which was pretty cool in my eyes.
And I like to say he was like the cool guy.
He was the cool guy.
You know, he was the one that didn't really practice very much, was like super talented but didn't practice. Always went out during like the performance practice concerts. Yeah, and he had a whole vibe going on.
He was not a goody-goody. He was like a bit of a bad boy. But I mean, that's how I felt about him.
Absolutely.
Actually, he was very nice. But anyway. So yeah, we were in this restaurant, and then there was a bit of a flirt going on, very much from his side, and I was like awkwardly going along with it. And then he was like, "Do you want to go for a walk?" And then we went for a walk, and things happened.
Yeah, but the things happened. So,
well, I mean, it was nothing spectacular at all. We just went 3.
But I mean, did you know? Were you expecting that we're gonna have your first kiss then or not? Like, you know?
Yes.
How did you feel?
I knew it was going to happen. I knew we were going for a walk to do that. I was nervous, and of course I tried to play it very cool. Yeah. And I remember specifically that, so I was sitting on his lap, and I remember specifically that he kissed me, and I kissed him, and my eyes were wide open, because I wanted to like check out what he was doing and do the same thing. And I remember him telling me like, "Don't you want to close your eyes?"
That's amazing.
And I was like, "Oh yeah." And I closed my eyes.
That is so sweet. Because I was always wondering, I would always analyze everything with you, like also before things would happen. I was so aware of like, okay, first kiss, first this, first that. And because who would you talk about like these, talking about the first kiss and before they happened? Did you have friends?
Before.
Exactly. Like, who would you, fantasize with about these things?
Well, yeah, at school, I guess, with my girlfriends.
And like, did you do the whole practice on your hand thing or something?
Practice on an apple.
You practice on an apple?
Yeah, that was a thing in my class, like my school class. Okay. Practice on an apple. That was a very standard practice.
Do you think you were a good first kiss?
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
Interesting. Nice. Yeah. My first kiss experience was so different. Like yours is like super sweet and innocent. I had been aware of this whole world, obviously, very, very early on. And I remember, I mean, my first real kiss, okay, I had it within a game, but I'm not gonna like count the game.
Yeah.
Like my first actually like romantic first kiss situation. I remember there was this, you also know it, obviously. There was this boy that I had kind of met during one of the master classes, and it had been a bit flirty. I was also 14. And then we met in another master class. And what I remember is that during that master class, for some reason, I was walking with crutches because I had done something. Either it was my surgery at my knee, my foot, or I had kind of hurt my knee. It was one of these two things. But I remember for this entire master class, I was walking in crutches, and we would always go on these walks together. And he would always like kind of help me. And then when we would like lie down to look at the stars, you know, I'd first have to like very non-elegantly kind of put the crutches next to me, and then like it was like this whole thing. So
That's super cute.
well, I agree it was super cute, but like we had now gone out like on multiple walks a day, and he hadn't kissed me. And then it was the last evening, and I was thinking to myself, like, am I misreading the signals? But it can't be, you know, like he's all the time putting his arm around me, and he's all the time like, you know, flirting with me and hugging me, and we were like doing all these romantic things together. So remember it was like this last evening, and we were sitting on the bench, and I was like, you know, saying, yeah, you know, tomorrow I'm going to go back to, you know, Düsseldorf where I lived, and he lived in another city. And then I just took like all my courage together, and I kissed him. And then it was like, we didn't even kiss for a very long time. Like I kissed him. I was like also super anxious whether it was like an okay move. So yeah, then and then that was it. And then we kind of said goodnight. And then I remember I didn't see him for a long time because you know, generally just our lives didn't really cross again, and we didn't really vibe enough like for a relationship to blossom out of it, you know, long distance. But I remember that then years later I saw him at this other masterclass, and then like this other festival, and then like something happened again. It was like a totally different situation. And
but
anyway,
it's super cool. You're like the embodiment of the modern woman. You just take matters into your own hands. You don't need anyone courting you. You just go for it.
Maybe I'm not sure. I think I would have preferred to have like a little romantic situation like you.
But it was romantic, like watching the stars. Kind of.
Okay, so now I want to get into a very special topic, which is titled First Boy We Both Kissed. And basically the reason why is because, of course, I think it would make sense to also get into the whole question of how do we navigate boys together.
Jealousy in relationships.
Jealousy in relationships, and also
sisters.
meeting same guys and everything. And I would say that quite interestingly, like the origin story of us being both not sexually active, but like active with boys was actually quite bad.
Yeah, it was our worst sister experience with a guy.
Yes,
I mean,
by far,
yeah,
like
yeah.
the one that was the most, I would say, traumatizing for both of us for subsequent events. So, do you want to tell it from your perspective?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
So we were in Greece at our summer holiday destination that we went to every summer, and we were always kind of hanging out with this group of people, and there was this one specific boy who was kind of cool. Again, a bit of a bad boy vibe, just saying. And so, I mean, I don't remember the exact order of events, but what happened was that he was first with you. That's right? No? Am I saying it correctly?
Yes.
Okay.
Because I always usually say it from my perspective, so I thought it was interesting to hear yours
because
first.
The truth is I never tell this story, so I'm like recollecting it as I'm saying it right now. Okay, so somehow he was, anyway, so things were happening between you two, and you were kind of like getting closer.
I mean, that was back when happening meant kissing. Nothing else was happening. It was like making out.
No. Things were so like very innocent things were happening between you two. And was this on like several evenings or one evening? I don't even remember that.
I remember.
Okay. No, we can tell who's the more traumatized one.
No, basically, the whole problem already was that we used to go to these to our holiday place for a very, very limited amount of days. So we'd go for about 5 days, and things had to happen quickly and had to happen efficiently. And, you know, when you're 15, it's not very easy to navigate these things. So anyways, there was this one guy, and quite quickly, like within the second or third evening, something happened between us. Namely, he kissed me in front of you, by the way.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
you were sitting across from me, which was so weird.
I was literally sitting with another super weird guy who was supposed to be like, so it was kind of a double date situation, which was completely hopeless with that guy. But anyway, I was sitting with him basically to support you.
I mean, the truth is that, okay, so first let's just say the story. So basically, exactly, to support me, you were there.
And then for this to happen.
Exactly.
For this to happen. And it happened.
It happened.
Well, the other guy was asking me
to
go to the beach, which was not going to happen in a million years.
I remember he had a voice which was literally higher than a countertenor's. It was the funniest thing. In any case, so he kissed me. It was super nice. I felt I was like on cloud 9. Obviously, we went back home. Oh my God, blah, 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 blah. Next evening, something happened between us again, but the vibe had already shifted. Like he was starting to heavily flirt with you.
Yeah.
And at that point, interestingly enough, I don't really know why, but we both had always quite naturally this inclination to not show when we were hurt.
Yeah.
Ever to boys. Like we never, I mean, this is a thing
not even to boys. I mean, in
general, but especially
life,
towards boys.
Yeah.
Like we were never the girls that would create a scene about anything. If we didn't like something, if we felt kind of hurt by something, we would usually just keep it to ourselves and then maybe disengage. Like that was usually the way to go. So, but that was the first time I was ever in that position, and my immediate natural response was I didn't
disengage.
I didn't say anything. No, I did. On the contrary, I pretended like I thought it was all super exciting and funny, because I thought the cool thing to do, the empowered thing to do, is not be hurt by a boy suddenly showing interest in your sister. No, everything is cool, everything is open, you know, like that's what I was trying to like convince myself that the situation was. So nothing happened that night, and then the next night was, I think, the last night that we were there, and it was also like one of the bigger celebrations in the village. And at that point, like he had completely shifted focus. It wasn't even like he was with me, and then like he was like just on you all the time. Yeah. And everyone else was kind of looking at it, and the narrative had kind of become, haha, this boy trying it with both sisters, and it was this situation. And I remember starting to feel, weirdly, really bad that you were saying no. I was starting to feel like everyone was kind of getting excited about this situation, and you were the one kind of saying like, no. And I was like, oh my God, she's ruining the whole narrative. I thought, if I can't have him, if it can't be like a romantic little him and me, then at least
we should both have.
No, at least I want to be in on the like spectacular, exciting story. I mean, totally wrong way of thinking, obviously. But that was, I was 15, I was young, I was insecure, it was a whole different, without like a mindset, without any self-reflection or honesty towards myself. So basically what ended up happening is I went to you and I said, Danae, just do it. Stop saying no, you know? Yeah. And you were like, are you sure? And I was like, yeah, come on, just please do it. So then you went and...
Then the famous kiss happened on the dance floor.
Then... You went and did it, and then...
I mean, did it is a kiss on the dance
right,
floor.
No, a kiss. I mean, everything was kissing, right? But I mean, at that point, that was equal to like, you know, it was
of course.
the thing, kissing. And then that was the last evening.
And that was it.
I think I remember like the day afterwards, he kind of both brought us home after we went to the beach,
we were
together.
It was the day we were already flying away.
Exactly.
I remember I was wearing long clothes in summer, which was the flying outfit. I remember that. Right. I was wearing long jeans.
Right, yeah. And I remember that at that point I was still putting on a very brave face. Yes. And I was like saying, no, how cool, you know, we had this whole situation. And I was like almost still trying to convince myself that what had happened was kind of a fun thing, you know, because also coming off of the fact that for a very long time I'd watched you have kind of like fun experiences with guys, because I was like 11 and 12 and now was finally a part of it. So generally it was a very dysfunctional situation from start to finish. And I remember that for a couple of days, like suddenly there was like this big distance between us, and it was very difficult to talk about it because I was too shy to admit that I was hurt by it.
But also I just want to say that even when you told me, go for it, do it, something inside me knew that I actually shouldn't have. So there was this feeling, and also I mean, to this day, I feel awful about this story, and it doesn't portray me in a good light at all.
My feet have like totally fallen asleep.
No, but because, I mean, in this scenario, I was 4 years older. I should have somehow known better. And the truth is, I did feel inside of me that, I mean, yes, you were pushing me towards it and everything, but I knew that the right thing would have been to just say, whatever, I don't want to.
Yeah, but the thing is that I believe this, I truly believe it was, for me, if you would have continued to say no, obviously now in retrospect, I get the whole thing. But the thing that broke my heart or whatever that hurt me wasn't that you went and did it. It was the fact that a guy obviously had chosen you over me, you know, in such a, or at least that's how
that's
it
not
felt.
That's not at all what happened. Like, he didn't choose anyone.
That's how it felt.
He basically just wanted the double experience.
Right. Back to that. So, I mean, the damage happened once I noticed that his interest had shifted.
Yeah.
You know, that was
I understand.
when the breaking point
But
happened.
I mean, the truth is that to this day, I feel bad about it. I just want to officially apologize once again.
So for a while, I think there was a very big care, especially on your part, when you had noticed that there was something going on between me and someone you kind of were very careful.
Which is as it should be, especially at that age, I think.
Yeah, of course. But I think at this point now we're in such a different place.
Things have changed a lot.
So anyway, I wanted to talk about, maybe actually I hadn't even planned to talk about that, but let's talk about how after that we kind of worked on this never happening again, like this kind of, you know, dishonesty towards each other never happening again, and how we then started navigating, you know, guys together, because I think that was definitely like the starting point. And I remember we had a conversation afterwards where you said kind of like, I will never do something again with someone that you have done something with.
Yeah, which
I'm not sure they know.
No, but I mean, for sure it was kind of a thing that we said, you know, if you choose somebody or if I choose somebody, then that's their person. Kind of like this sisters before misters thought process.
Right.
And we definitely stuck to that for a while, and we also always discussed it. And I think for a while it also wasn't a realistic problem because of the age gap, which I find at 15 and 19 is significant when it comes to guys. Because I might have already been interested in the 20-year-olds.
And I mean, that guy that we spoke about before was, I think, exactly,
he was younger than me.
He was 17.
Exactly.
So
he was between us. He was between us, But no, I think that that didn't really play a role. But then came that moment, and I don't know when to define that moment. Maybe when you were... When was that moment? When you were 20, maybe, and I was 24?
I think when I started studying.
When you were 19? Were you 19 or 18?
I was 18 when I started studying.
18?
But I mean, I think it was when I was 18, I was still very much my age. Like 19, 20.
19, 20, then, right? You know, So 19, 20 for Kiveli and like 23, 24 for me. That's when somehow the pool of guys around us started to become very similar again.
Yeah.
And I think that's when these potential possibilities arose again.
Yeah. I mean, I think the key, I would say the biggest challenge when it came to relationships between us, and that of course also ties back to everything we talk about having experiences at the same time and everything, was the fact that I had been aware of the enticing qualities of being with someone and someone being interested in you far earlier than most girls. Yeah. I remember by the age of like 10, I had completely understood the concept of a guy and a girl being with each other. I hadn't understood the details about it. Like, you know, I'm not talking about sexually or not, but I'm talking about like energetically, you know, someone showing interest in someone, being flirted with, being kind of having like a repartee going on. Like, I had been very aware of that. And I remember there was so long that I felt I had to wait before someone showed me this type of interest. Because
which actually wasn't long. I mean, you were 14, you were same age as me.
Yes, but it felt long because I was, you know, I was
it's
in
not
the
like
company
you were late.
of so many situations like this.
Yeah.
Something that I mean, from all the like positive things of being around older people, being mature, that is something that really I carried, I think, negative things from that.
Yeah.
Because I felt unwanted at a time that it had nothing to do with me and everything to do with the fact that I hadn't gone through puberty yet, you know? But I felt like it had to do something with me, and it took me a very long time and, you know, many positive, normal experiences at appropriate ages to kind of get that negative stigmatization I had on myself, kind of get rid of it and be like, no, it had nothing to do that you weren't attractive or weren't desirable. It's just you were 12 and the other guys were 17, you know?
Of course.
And it's totally natural. Actually, when I think about it now, I think it's astounding how seriously I was being taken by some of our peers, but they were actually far older. So I'm actually surprised the other way around. But
I do think that we were in a field also where age didn't really play a role. I mean, of course, on some levels, but not that much. It was very normal for a, let's say, 15, 16-year-old to hang out with a 20-year-old, and also like bigger age differences going higher up were not unusual, just because we were connected through something else, not by age, but through music.
So definitely, I think that I had like this kind of harder entry point to this whole topic.
Yeah, I totally understand that.
But obviously the cure to all of that was when I started having normal experiences at the right times, you know, being aged at an age appropriate, being aged appropriately. It, of course, naturally it all went away. Yeah. And now, of course, we're thinking from a far different standpoint when it comes to jealousy about guys. Like, we're far, far more secure and therefore able to be honest with ourselves.
Yeah.
Okay, so having spoken about that whole personal revelation, I wanted to talk about some more general abstract things. So I want to talk about jealousy connected to the fact that we are giving a guy more attention than to each other.
Oh. Well, I mean, I don't know why this pops into my head immediately, but I'm thinking of my first relationship, my first serious relationship when I was 18 years old. I had my first boyfriend that I was also living together with I was living with him, I think, for about 2 years, and I was together already a year before that. And up to then, I never had a serious boyfriend. Not at all. I mean, And up to then, I would say you were obviously the protagonist of my life. And then he came along, and since he was also the first boy, of course my attention completely shifted to him, and I was totally consumed by him, and we would talk on the phone every night. And then when I was there, obviously I was with him.
We would talk on the phone every night. I remember that quite well. Go on. and obviously I was my focus was on him. Yeah. And it's not like I had forgotten about you at all, but just compared to our usual super intense relationship, of course it became a bit less. And I remember that you never really, at least I don't remember, but correct me if I'm wrong, you never really said anything until that one night when you somehow exploded. And what happened was, I was living with him in Hanover, where I was studying at the university, and Kiveli, just like I had during school, was coming every weekend to study with that professor as a youth student who was still going to school. And she would always stay at our place, at our apartment. And so that time you were also supposed to stay at our apartment. And then I don't know what triggered it. I'm sure you're going to tell us in a second, because I don't remember it. I remember it like partially.
But what happened was that basically Kiveli said that, you know, this like, I don't know, I don't love you anymore. You're not welcome anymore. And, you know, I'm just interested in him. And then you're going to stay at the hotel and you're just not even going to come. That's what I remember. Like, you're not going to spend the night there.
Yeah. But I did end up spending the night there.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. Because
so it was only like an idea.
No, the way I remember it, the fight happened at the university. It didn't happen at your place, and basically, I mean, it had been so many things together. It wasn't just the boyfriend fact. I mean, you had moved out that year, so there was suddenly like this incredible distance, you know, between us, like physical, geographical distance between us, and I don't remember it very clearly. I remember the whole phase very clearly, and I remember it had gone something along the lines of, you had told me that it is not necessarily appropriate that I'm staying at your place every week, and because you know it's your relationship, you're living with him, or it's not self-evident that he would accept it, which I mean is true. Yes, because also our mom would come with.
Because it wasn't just Kiveli; it was Kiveli and our mom that were visiting us every weekend.
So you were very in your right
student apartment.
You're very much in your right to say that, and kind of that comment, especially because you'd kind of lumped me together with our mother.
Yeah,
and I was like, okay, if that's how you feel, I don't want to stay at your place. Like, that's kind of what had happened. Mm-hmm. But I mean, that was just a very, in a nutshell, explosion moment.
Yeah.
Generally, of course, I remember that phase of the first time you had your focus somewhere else. And I think it's a very kind of common and normal and natural experiences that siblings or very good best friends go through when suddenly one of them has something so wonderful and beautiful in their life that has nothing to do with you, with me. Like it was someone else giving you all these beautiful and wonderful memories and experiences, and I felt for the first time completely excluded, because I was, of course, from a very important part of your life, and it was just. And I was also, again, I was still very young. It was the same, like 16, 15, 16 age situation. And from my very non-reflected perspective, I was just like, I felt betrayed, you know?
But did that go away as time progressed, or was it like that throughout the entire relationship with him?
No, it wasn't, because I think about 1 year later, I had my first kind of long-term connection with a guy.
Okay, and that's when it went away.
I don't think that's the reason it went away, but it coincided with that. So I think that then, and also I'd kind of started to get more used to living alone, and that you weren't living with us anymore. Yeah. And many things eclipsed that. Also, the death of our first teacher happened then. So many things happened that kind of shifted our focus from that, and it became more of a habit, and it wasn't, kind of the situation that it was. Like, it wasn't something new anymore. And then obviously when I started studying, so much clicked and shifted that changed my life to like exponential positive ways, exponentially positive ways. So a lot of the things that I hadn't quite understood why you acted a certain way became so clear to me when I started experiencing them in my own right.
Yeah.
And I think the problem was that the reason why I always was maybe intensified, jealous, or kind of had an issue with it is because my experiences simultaneously were not with my age group, but they continue to be with your age group. So it's the same. It's the same theme through everything. Yeah. The same source of challenges. Despair. Were you ever jealous of anything? I can only think of more friendships than boys. I mean, one boy. I remember there was one boy you felt, but it also connects to the next question. But no, go ahead.
Wait, which boy? Which one are you talking about?
I'm thinking of the boy who was when he gave me a book to read, and I was reading it in summer.
Oh yeah, that was a friend. But
it was
a friendly platonic boy.
Sorry, my foot here is like I can't feel anything anymore. I'm trying to like massage life back into it without looking weird, but it's literally like a Lieutenant Dan right here. It's like nothing.
No, I mean, have I ever been jealous of anything with you concerning boys? I mean, concerning boys, I think I would have to say no. I don't think I've been jealous.
No.
About anything. No. Even, I'm sure we're going to get into that, but like the same boy experiences that happened later on.
Right.
Even those, I think, were very, very, like, there was a lot of harmony between us for that. Yes. No, not really. I mean, yes, with that thing that you mentioned, that was just a friend, but a friend that was very important. I mean, if you haven't listened to our first episode where I talk about how Kiveli views friendship, check it out, because Kiveli views friendship in a way that's more intense than what I would view a romantic relationship. But I think that was it the first time that you had such an intense friendship? Maybe. In a way, on that level, I think I would actually, I mean, to this day, I would label this as your most intense friendship.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, you're on the phone almost daily, and I just felt that everything that was connected with him, or that everything that you were doing was connected to him. I think that's what I felt. And that's why, I mean, by the way, he's a great guy. And actually, anything that inspires you from him it's good stuff. But I think in my mind, I was just thinking, okay, now you're doing this thing again just because he told you so. Right. And this is what I found somehow like
you were
frustrating.
You were worried.
Yeah.
Which links me perfectly to my next question, which is about how do we deal with a situation when we don't like... a friend or like relationship, a partner, a boyfriend, an interest.
I mean, maybe you should start talking about that because you didn't like one of them. And I mean, you were right.
Actually, no, the truth is that, okay, so Danae's had 3 relationships, one of which...
What?
What? Did I say something? 4?
I don't know. I mean,
5, 3?
I don't know. Yeah,
3 long-term.
3 long-term relationships. I love it.
Am I right?
No, you're right.
Am I missing something?
No. Let's go with that.
Are you hiding something from me?
No, I'm not.
Is there a relationship I'm unaware
thinking
about?
If we're counting them out here, then like that person might know exactly who we're talking about. Like, let's not be so precise about the number of my.
Anyway, Danae's had relationships in her life, and one of them, and in one of them, it wasn't that much that I didn't like the guy. To be honest, I always thought the guy was very funny and I had a good time with him. And it was more that at some point I had realized that you had kind of a far more chronicle bad mood and short patience and things like that. I was noticing that you were generally in a less positive mood than I had been used to. And I was noticing that it was always directed at, like, you were putting so much effort into making the relationship work, and it obviously wasn't giving you the positivity that it should if you when putting so much effort in it. And I remember just trying to talk to you about it and you being
defensive.
Cautiously defensive, I would say.
Very defensive. Yeah, I mean, obviously... that relationship was a challenge. I think I don't want to put anything on the guy. I mean, he is who he is, and he was who he was from the start. Yeah. It's not anything that I discovered later on or anything like that. I would just say he brought out something in me that I didn't like, that also wasn't good for me. And it was definitely a side that existed inside of me, and that probably still exists inside of me, but some people just bring out these sides, and he really triggered that side in me. And it really came to the surface in big ways. Yeah. And I mean, in retrospect, I'm very grateful that I had this relationship because I learned a lot from it. And if I was now in such a relationship, I would navigate it so differently, probably wouldn't even get into it. But it was a very important experience for me. And it was also good to know that, you knew before I knew that this wasn't good for me.
Right. No, I think it's very interesting because I always ask you also now, if that situation were to come up again, how would you want me to tell you?
Right. And I think the answer is I would want you to tell me.
Tell you, but I would also have to expect that you would be...
Could be, yeah.
Yeah. Because I would say that the other way around... I'm trying to imagine how I would react if you would be like, I don't like this person that you're together with.
Yeah. I mean, I've told you that about friends.
Yes.
There was one friend,
particular
a girl,
one I remember,
actually,
of course,
that you had that I really didn't like and that I found was a really bad influence. And I don't know how you felt how did you feel when I said that?
Obviously, in that moment, I didn't want to take that into account. I think in both situations, there is a part of us, not particularly deep down, but a bit deeper down, that are aware that this relationship, or in my case, this friendship, represented something we needed to kind of live out in order to have it out of our systems or kind of go through that particular journey and then come out wiser on the other side. I think that, I mean, in my case, that friendship lasted a couple of months and then it was over. In your case, the relationship was the relationship happened because you don't want us to divulge information. But generally speaking, I think that if you were okay, here's my real opinion. I'm afraid, or I suspect that maybe if, you know, I'm totally in love or I'm totally smitten with someone, you coming and saying like, I don't think he's a very good influence on you, my reaction would be something like, you don't understand, you don't know him the way I do, like the typical things. But I hope that because I've so often been on the other side of it, where I have observed two people or one person I care about with someone who obviously was making that person unhappy or wasn't really appreciating that person properly, and I've tried to be the person to kind of tentatively, you know, uncover that a tiny bit. And I hope that because I've been on the other side of it, I would be more receptive to it.
Yeah.
But I think it's the hardest thing to do, and it's the most also kind of, you know, it's a very ungrateful task to go to a person you care about and be, you know, that person you love and you think is the person for you. I feel that he's really not good for you.
I mean, this is a hard task, but also for the person that's in the relationship to actually seriously take that into account is also very hard, because it's not only re-examining the person you're in a relationship with, but it's re-examining yourself, your choice, because for what reason whatsoever you chose that person to be in your life, very importantly, full time, and now you're like, okay, so that was maybe not the right choice.
No, it's very difficult.
Yeah,
and I think,
but it's important to have sisters or whatever, siblings, close people, to help you out of a situation like that. You know, I mean, in my case, in the end, actually, I just, out of my own decision, ended it. That actually, you didn't like force me into it at all. It was just naturally coming to an end, that relationship. But I think if I was still together with him today, you really should have started to get going.
Can I ask, like, where is the boundary? Like, when is it also just sticking your nose in where it doesn't belong? You know, when do you have to just accept, okay, for whatever reason, she's choosing that person, time to get on the supportive train?
I think, I would say if you've tried it multiple times. If you've tried it
like once, twice, you know what I mean?
No, I mean, not just mentioning it, but if you've had actually serious, deep discussions about it on multiple occasions, not just maybe when a problem was there, but also when things are good, when things are bad, you know, going through the entire emotional curve. On every part of that curve, you've discussed it and you see, okay, it's not going anywhere. Then it's just like, I wouldn't even say I support you, but like, I accept it. I'm not going to be in the way of it. You do you. Let's see where this goes. If you change your mind, I'm here.
Right. Yeah, if you change your mind. It's one of my big problems, like this whole letting go and letting people I love make decisions where, I mean, I suppose it's kind of patronizing and arrogant to say where I know better. But I feel like sometimes it's much easier to observe things in a more sober way when you're not attached to it emotionally. I mean, there have also been very good friends of mine, you know, part of the really good friends of mine, where I've seen them fall for or be really interested or get kind of entangled with someone who made them more sad than happy. And I've also spoken to some of them, like, subsequently after it was over and said, like, you know, what could I have done? And more often than not, of course, the situation is that it was a necessary step. Like, it's not your business to not do it. It's your business to be there when, you know, the calls come, the sad calls come, and it's your business to be there. And if the other person's really not making, you know, them happy, at least maybe I can make them happy, you know?
Yeah,
like
but
this type of
I think that's an important point. It's actually a necessary step. In my case, I would definitely say it was a very necessary step, and I came out such a different person.
Yeah, of course.
At the end of that relationship, having learned so much, I mean, I definitely wouldn't be where I am today with who I am today with my children if it hadn't been for that relationship.
True. Okay, what is, in your opinion, the biggest shift of like perspective that you've had concerning either men or your interactions with men since, you know, you first started having experiences with them? So let's just say how, you know, 16 years into the male experiment, what are your insights?
So my biggest shift in how I perceive them, or in
what you've learned, maybe. I mean,
Well, I mean, I think the number one thing that comes to my mind is when I started out as a young, I would say, insecure girl. Obviously, I thought that there are right and wrong things to do to, get attention, to make someone happy, to be just, be attractive, be right, and all these things. And as the years progressed, slowly, really step by step, I realized that it's not about how I dress. It's not about, when I used to go out as a 16-year-old, I would really make myself super pretty. Now it's like it's not like I don't, like I want to look ugly, but I go as Danae, as how I am, and just as myself. And I try not to play into the other person's, what I think he might like, what he might not like, but I try as best I can be to be myself. And I've realized that actually that is the kind of confidence that is attractive. And also, of course, that is the base for any kind of valuable interaction, romantically or non-romantically.
Let me ask you about, it immediately goes to the next one of the following questions I had, because I agree with you 100%, but I also have, I would say, things that I think about that make it very difficult for me to accept that completely.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it goes into two things that we can discuss together. The first thing is because you were talking about being yourself and everything, and just being confident and real and everything. The first thing is the question of promiscuity in girls in the 21st century and how to navigate that. And then the second thing is kind of dating as a more extroverted, confident, competent, geared woman. I think you and I both like to present ourselves and put our most competent foot forward, where other girls might put, a more shy or maybe more optically focused foot forward. We very much like to stress our intellectual side.
We don't always give the impression of we need to be protected, for example.
Because when you were saying that, boys, what they really find attractive is the real thing. And I agree with it. I agree that what boys really find attractive. But there has always been this side of me, and that's, I think, the thing that I've been struggling the most when I think about interactions with boys, is the other side of it, where there is an objective, I would say an objective image of an attractive girl. And sometimes it's not necessarily equivalent to the image of the perfect girlfriend, but more the perfect, maybe hot woman, or the perfect woman to seduce, or all these things. But I feel that more and more nowadays, because of the very high pressure to present perfect images through social media, and because everything is so public and so everyone has a platform and things like that, that many boys have decided to forego meaningful relationships for more, I would say, visually perfect relationships. And I'm not even talking about visually in terms of beautiful girls, but also very kind of non-offensive, perfect kind of situations you can present. So nothing that kind of foregoing individuality for ideal conformity.
Yeah. Well,
and how do you feel that? I mean, how have you ever even thought about that? Has it been a problem or an issue for you? Or
just going from myself, I think that, let's say I met a boy and then I get that vibe from him, or I see, okay, he's actually interested in that and he lays more value on that, then I would for myself just immediately say, then he's obviously not the right boy for me. And I think just this fact would make me also kind of lose interest, because if you're not interested in, as you say, competence or a confident woman, but you're interested in, someone who is beneath you, consciously looking for that, then it's okay, it's totally fair and totally fine. And I think there are many girls that also look for this kind of protector and everything, but then it's not the guy that I'm looking for. And I'm totally fine, I think, accepting that the way it is. And I think both these things exist. And I'm just looking for the people that are interested in me the way I am. Also because you mentioned the visuals, actually I wanted to say the second thing that I've realized in my 16 years of boys experience is actually that how looks play a smaller role as time progresses. And of course, when I just started thinking about boys, looks were almost, I would say, number one on the list. And I thought, okay, he's handsome, he's hot, perfect. And then as I was getting older, looks became less and less and less important. Of course, there is that first attraction that is connected to looks, yes. But I mean, how often have we had the situation where there's a gorgeous person and then they start talking and you're like, okay, goodbye.
Of course.
And also vice versa. There's someone you didn't even catch your attention, and then he starts talking and you're like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But I mean, it's also a fact that girls, as we spoke about earlier today, are much more, I would say, cerebrally stimulated and therefore much more, I wouldn't say much more into character, but are definitely, I would say, put looks and character at least on the same level from the earliest, much, of course,
I would
character
say character
above
much
looks.
higher.
But I would say also in terms of first impressions.
Yeah.
And I think boys gear their first impressions far more visually than girls do.
Yes.
And I mean, I find it interesting because obviously the type of relationship you want is one based on character and values and not based on looks or on kind of the how other people could perceive the relationship, obviously. At the same time, I find, sometimes that I would say as a single person, I do sometimes worry that, how am I going to phrase it? It's difficult to say because I don't act on it. I do still absolutely kind of present myself from my more character intellectual side. Yeah. But I would say there are times that I wish I could pull off the more, bashful, shy girl thing.
But I don't think this would get you anywhere. I mean, I mean, like, get you anywhere in terms of happiness. Because I think, of course it would get you into a pseudo romantic relationship, but I don't think it would make you happy at all because you would either have to remain in that role, which is totally not you.
It's not a strategy worth considering. I'm just saying that I think it's interesting because it's something that I've become more aware of now, because I think it's something that's more prevalent now. Because of Instagram and all these things.
For sure.
And I also think, it also depends on the type of guy.
Yeah.
Obviously. There is a type of guy that lays much higher value on that. And as you said, these are not the type of guys for us.
Exactly. And it's important, which, I mean, you've also never done, but it's important not to settle. Not to settle. Like, the most... the most important relationship that you have is the one with yourself. Exactly. And it's true. And if that one is not one that is looked after and one that is working out well, then nothing else is going to work out well. And if you're with the wrong guy, like I have been, then the relationship with yourself falls into all kinds of pieces.
The other question that I'd ask that we haven't addressed yet is the question of promiscuity. Yeah,
so do you mean girls being promiscuous, or what exactly do you mean when you say promiscuity?
I mean, kind of, because I can tell you exactly in how I was framing the question. I remember that when we were growing up, and I don't know if it was just me or if it was also you, that I remember for some reason thinking that promiscuity in girls somehow was an empowering thing, that it was a good thing, that the more guys you had slept with as a girl or you had been with as a girl, kind of the more desirable that made you, because it meant that more guys obviously had been interested in you. That's and really I remember that, I mean, this was at a time where I had never been with a guy yet. So when I mean growing up, like as a 16, 17-year-old girl, I remember that when guys would, I would flirt with guys, I would always, for some reason, believe that it was cool to come off as experienced and open and things like that. And I don't know why that is. I don't know, but I remember it was kind of a shift of perspective for me when I was about 19, 20 to realize that, hang on, the other thing, that there needs to be a balance to it,
I mean, to be honest, I think that at least in the society that we grew up in and in the circles that we were moving, and I don't mean necessarily the musician circles, I mean more like, where we went to school and this type of thing. I think that was my feeling, that there was kind of like this perfect in between that you had to have as a girl. If you had nothing, you're a bit of a loser because you were just boring. If you had too much, you were a slut. That was also not good. But if
It wasn't boring.
but if you had like a couple of things, then you were obviously desirable and attractive, but also smart enough not to take everything that was coming
I think,
your
the
way.
perfect seesaw that is kind of the definition of what girls need to pull off in our day, right? You need to kind of pull off having lots of offers, but not saying yes to all of them.
Right. I mean, which, by the way, I find just crazy that this is what is expected. I mean, I think there is absolutely nothing wrong in having your first love, your high school sweetheart, and being together until you're 80 years old. I think that's absolutely amazing. And I think there is also absolutely nothing wrong in having 100 partners if that's what makes you happy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, and the
but
wrong
you're right,
thing...
this is what is expected.
This is what is expected. And I think it's interesting to talk about because the trap you can fall into, and I think I'm very thankful that I didn't fall into it. And I actually really thank the first boy I was kind of with for a couple of years, who he didn't stop me from doing other things, but because I was so smitten with him, I wasn't interested in doing anything with anyone else. So because of that, kind of, I was old enough to then reflect on it. But I think it's the trap that you might fall into is because you kind of feel like you have to prove to yourself that you have many offers to kind of find validation in doing things you otherwise wouldn't.
And also, I think there is a danger that you do things too early, or also, in the wrong way, in a way that you're later going to regret just to have done them. I mean, I was in this situation because I was generally a bit late to everything, also like late to my first time and whatever. And there were situations where I just thought, okay, do I just need to somehow like get this over with right now? I'm also very happy that it didn't happen like that, thankfully, but it happened just the way it was supposed to, with like an actual boyfriend, things were happening for a long time before that. But I think that the danger is absolutely there. And I remember being in my school class and so many girls had already done all this stuff. And I was there like not having done it, and I couldn't really participate in the discussions, and I was just trying to be cool and like pretending that I knew stuff from stories also, but it was uncomfortable.
And I also remember, and of course those are the discussions I believe that girls need to have with each other, or sisters need to have with each other, because I also I had my first time quite late, the same age as you. We both had our first time with 18. But I was already studying with 18. And I remember in the first months where I was studying and I was still a virgin, and I thought to myself, I was so kind of worried about the fact that I hadn't had my first time yet and I was already studying. It seemed so different from all the movies I had seen and things like that. But my really good friend at the time told me, like, in super secret, that she was also a virgin. And I remember I was so relieved, and it's important, I think, as girls to remind ourselves that your worth is absolutely not connected to the amount of attention you get from guys.
Not at all.
And it is
not if you are or you're not
easy to believe that. I know it in my core, and still sometimes a certain comment or lack of a comment from someone can either make or break my day. And I don't know if you feel that as well. I feel like I'm kind of more susceptible to this kind of seeking validation. And again, it's a totally non-mental response. There is never a day where I wake up and I'm like, oh, I probably am not good enough for this person, and someone better would have that person's attention or anything like that. But there is like this, almost like on a DNA level, if someone you like shows you a spark of interest, your whole body just gets those endorphins
like an instinct
out.
somehow.
I don't know what it is, dopamine, it's definitely not serotonin, but I think it's like dopamine or endorphin is just like whoosh, oh my God, I might mate someday, like it's that reaction. And it's so important to kind of remind ourselves that worth is not connected to male attention.
And
I think it's something that girls instinctively are somehow taught by their surroundings that is the way it is.
By society, if you, of
Likes
course,
and
if you look at
comments
social media anyway, where the perfect girl is the one that gets a lot of likes and that dresses super sexily and attractively and all that, or just at the ads on TV, at the bus stop, anywhere are these perfectly attractive women that men look at because they are so attractive, and of course we aspire towards being that, which is completely unrealistic because also these girls don't even look like that. They are photoshopped into looking like that. So
of course.
Everything about this is unrealistic and it doesn't help the psychological well-being of girls and boys alike.
Of course.
But just to answer your question, I think that on a very basic level, of course, everyone gets satisfaction from attention from the gender that they like. But I think that, especially for me, since I had a family, things have really fundamentally changed. My focus is so different. It has shifted so much that, yes, I'm not going to say I'm sad because I'm getting attention. Of course not. But it's really not my main focus. It's there. It's not there. I really don't care about it.
Yeah, no, of course, I get it. Especially with young kids, it's a whole different thing. And the other thing that I kind of think of a lot when I think about like this whole feeling like you're worth something because of that aspect of your character, like how desirable you are to the opposite or same sex, whatever your preference, is the fact that I think it's so important to kind of have achievements in your life you can be proud of. Many times when I think of, and maybe that is also ignorant or unfair of me, but I'm just very honestly stating it, many times when I think of this stereotypical girl that, gets all her worth from the Instagram likes and gears her entire being towards finding guys that kind of approve of what she does and someone to protect her and things like that, I think of someone who has not yet dared to ask herself, what does she want to achieve in life? It's not that she cannot achieve something. It's not that she's only capable of that. Everyone is capable of greatness if you find your niche on what you're great at, And I think that the antidote to all this dysfunctional relationship to trying to get worth through things like that is focus on something that is important to you and that is in your control.
Yeah. And having said that, I totally agree with you. But I just think it's important to say that it is also okay if you are looking to be protected. I think, of course, everyone in us
100%
is looking for some kind of protection. I also want to be protected.
I'm more talking about, the girl that if she doesn't get more than, say, 200 likes on the picture, her day is over. And it really shouldn't be over. Because there is nothing, there is not that kind of the meter of likes unless you're getting like your finances over that, unless that's like your income and it's like, $200 less or something. There is nothing that it says about you. Most of it has to do with weird algorithms or things like that. So basically what I'm thinking of more and more is that, because I see a lot of it like geared to boys, like kind of, you have to do something, you have to earn money and provide for your future wife and your family. And boys have this kind of very instinctive thing of like they get their worth from, for example, how much money they have or how much they can afford to, spend on a girl or on a car or on a house or something like that. And girls is like kind of an added bonus to that whole thing. And I think it should be the exact same thing with girls. For sure.
For sure.
Be able to provide for your family in the future, have that as a goal. Find something that is really meaningful to you. Because many times, for example, for me, I noticed that when I've played a really good concert, the next week, nothing in that situation can influence me. And do you know what's so funny? I don't know if that ever... If that's kind of perspective or if it's kind of, this, what you give into the universe comes back. But whenever I'm having a high in my career, that's when things start happening. That's when suddenly there's one guy that I was interested in 3 months ago kind of texts me and starts, you know, like
the law of
striking
attraction.
up the law of attraction.
Yeah.
It's so funny. And, or, you know, suddenly like you get that spark back with someone. It's
because
so
you're
interesting.
also exuding no need. You're not needy.
Exactly.
You're not this insecure something looking for attention, but you're super content with yourself.
Yeah.
The relation with yourself is totally going well. And of course people are like, okay, wait a minute, I want to be a part of that. I want to be this happy.
But the interesting thing is that sometimes it cannot be correlated, because the fact that you're having a career high in, I don't know, in Cologne is not known to the guy who's right now in, I don't know, Athens or something that, you know?
Yeah.
So it's this weird synchronicity thing that's going on, which is a whole other level. But I'm just saying, like, it works. When you're happy with yourself, when you're doing something that gives meaning to your life, the things that you can't control lose significance.
Yeah, so. I mean, whenever someone asks me, how can I get this or this person, no matter if it's a guy or a girl, I always say, you know, work on your interests, work on your hobbies, on your career, on everything. Meet up with your friends, create a perfect life for yourself, because then many people will want to be a part of that.
Absolutely, yeah. That is totally true. But it's a very difficult perspective to hold.
Yeah.
Because the more you want something, the harder it is to remember that getting it or not getting it doesn't define your happiness. Because in that moment, it does define your happiness. But the sun will come out tomorrow. Okay. The next question, I find, because, okay, that's an interesting question I wanted to ask you. It has to do with the, like, career, relationship, family balance. Mm-hmm. And especially from the perspective of a female artist, a female person. Yeah. How do you feel about this whole topic? And how has it changed, obviously, since you have had kids?
I mean, first of all, I think it's interesting. I get this question a lot, of course. In interviews and things like that, how I do it as a young mother of 2 and my career. I think it's interesting that all the women that have kids and that keep on working are asked that. Mm-hmm. And guys have been having kids for many, many years. And have been also working and also being very involved at home with the kids, and have never been asked how they manage to juggle these 2 things. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, of course, it's coming off of the whole traditional thing. And but I mean, having said that, I personally am someone who likes to be and wants to be also in the future extremely involved in the life of my kids. I don't want to just leave them somewhere for the entire day and then see them for 2 hours in the evening. I really love them. Shocker. I really love them and love to spend time with them. And I must say at this point, there is nothing that makes me happier than spending time with them. At the same time, I'm also someone, as you know, who really needs to have fulfillment from what I do, which is, in my case, playing the piano and everything connected to that whole music world. And I think it would be hard for me to survive without that. I think I couldn't do that. I need that in order to be a balanced person for myself, in order to feel like I'm creating something. So I really need both things. And this means that I really need to manage my time very well. And I mean, as you know, because you're living with me, my day is always pretty packed right now. And I really plan my day out hour by hour and really know, okay, this is going to be my window to practice, and there is no room for just chilling or doing anything. I really have to go then and practice. And then I work long evenings, long nights when the kids are sleeping. I might sleep a little less than I'm supposed to. But I also know that this is a phase. This is not forever. This is a phase of a couple of years, and then things are going to be different again. So
I mean, I have to say, I mean, I've said it many times, but I find it remarkable what you pull off with like this balance, kids and career. And what I find especially remarkable is not just the time management, which, you know, it's okay, you can sit down, you can kind of do a to-do list and everything, but it's more the emotional dedication you are able to have despite any anxiety that, you know, might come up to the kids. Like whenever you're with the kids, no matter what is happening, whether you have got to learn, you know, an entire piece by tomorrow and you can only start practicing after they're in bed or something like that. When you're with them, you're patient, you're in a good mood, you're pleasant and present. and I find that really remarkable. And I don't know if there is anyone else that you could do that for than them.
Definitely not.
And I don't know if it is the mother's love or whether you have kind of, you know, trained yourself or whether it came naturally to you.
I think it's the mother's love. I think that, you know, it's the same reason why you keep loving them so much even after, you know, you've been up all night. You wouldn't be like that with somebody else. But no, I think it's the mother's love. And to be honest, it comes very naturally, this, you know, being in a good mood and being present with them no matter what happens, because in a way they take my mind off the stress-inducing things. When I'm with them, it's like, you know, time stands still. It's literally the most important thing in my life, and nothing can really divert my attention from it. And yes, of course, when then the time comes, I'm like, okay, now it's time to spring into action. But I think in a way they're helping me, you know, they're helping me get through stressful situations, because number one, I have these not moments, but long hours of calm with them.
It's so interesting you call it calm.
Yeah.
But I get what you mean, internal calm.
My mind is calm. My mind is not focusing around all the things I have to do. So I have these moments of calm with them. And then the second thing is they are also a constant reminder of what's actually important in life. Because this is something that I was missing, I think, before I had kids. Before I had kids.
Perspective.
Yes, I thought that, you know, if I mess this career thing up, then like literally my life is over. And now I know that, of course, I don't want to mess it up, but I know that if I mess it up, I still have my kids. I mean, nothing is over. I still have happiness. And that was such a shift for me and such an important perspective. So I really feel like, as stressful as it might be at times, they're helping me. They are really making my life so much better. I find it absolutely amazing. I mean, and I notice it especially like in the situations where I feel that I have got lots to do and where I'm on the go and I have to leave and catch that train, and where I feel that my mind kind of zips down. I'm like, okay, in super efficient mode. And that when then they come and they want to, like, you know, open a package or something, I mean, I also immediately feel so grateful to have their, you know, pure attention on me. But it's just for these 10 minutes. And you do it every day, all the time. Every day, each day, all day, you know? And I mean, I find it really amazing. But having said that, maybe we should mention also, because it's about relationships, the relationship that you have as an aunt with your two nephews is also very remarkable. I mean, I don't think I know any other aunt, like in our family, definitely not. And also I think in the circle of friends, I can't think of anybody that has such a close relationship. Of course, we also live together, so that makes it even stronger. But even before that, I mean, it's super close. I really do feel that you love them like they're your own kids.
I do love, absolutely. At the same time, I never want to say like they're my own kids, because I cannot still imagine that. But I will never forget that first pregnancy test you did for your first child. And that I remember my whole worldview changed. Because I just remember that we had that stick in our hands, or you had, I don't remember who was holding it. You were holding it. Afterwards. Put the cap on already. Anyways. And like suddenly, like that second line, it was one of those like plus minus situations. And suddenly like that second line appeared. And I remember I looked like, on your stomach that looked exactly like the minute before, and like everything that was outside of the universe suddenly was like not comparable to the amazingness, and I was just like, oh my god,
something's happening
there.
Yeah.
And it's so difficult to explain.
I don't think I had realized it at that moment.
But I remember at that, I was just like, I already felt like the child was existing. I mean, it did exist, arguably, but it was amazing. It was amazing. So I totally understand that. And the other thing that I was thinking while I was actually writing down this question is the fact that you would absolutely prioritize your kids over your career.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure you would have prioritized any relationship over your career.
Yeah,
I
wouldn't have.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, it's true. Because, I mean, my career has always played a very big role in my... And still does. Still plays an important role in my life. And I had actually this conversation especially with my first boyfriend, because I remember we were discussing something like a trip or something. And I was like, no, I can't. I mean, I have this concert coming up. And he's like, yeah, but, we're also together. And for me, in that moment, it was the first time I even contemplated it, because before that it wasn't even a question. It wasn't even like a perspective I had to actually do something for a relationship instead of the career. Yeah. I mean, I definitely was too career focused, maybe, but no, with my kids, of course, it's different.
Yes, absolutely. Let me see. Okay. I have one very interesting question, also conversation that we've had, which is, how do you feel about dating specifically in the artistic space? Especially how other people perceive artists and their romantic lives. So often I've had the experience that people who are not musicians or who are not connected to kind of the artist industry, they... Two things. I think they have this expectation of everything being wild and steamy and passionate and kind of uncompromising. And on the other side, which I mean obviously is an over... I would say over exaggeration.
I mean, there is an element of truth,
but there is an element
to
it. And on the other side, I also think that many things that I consider to be totally normal and not outrageous, when other people see it or observe it. For example, I'm thinking specifically in a festival setting. We are all, we invite the musicians to Molivos, which is the village where we come from originally, and then obviously within the festival time we interact with them in what we find to be a very normal and I would say artistically natural way.
But I think that's actually averagely totally not the normal way.
So what do you think about that? I
think that it's definitely true that things within the artistic circle are freer, I would say, freer. Also due to the fact that the life has such a different pace. You travel a lot, you meet different people all the time. You have these intense experiences together on stage. All this results in the fact that things happen faster. I think that's also just a fact. In the entertainment industry, things happen faster than if you are at an office where you see the same people every day in a very professional setting. Yeah. Because also part of our job is to then go to the restaurant after the concert and socialize and all these things. And of course, this has a different kind of energetic level than
and
being
also
at the office.
Making music together is such an intimate experience.
Yes.
I mean, it's to be honest, I find so much similarities in the qualities that make good chamber music and the qualities that make
good
lovemaking.
Yeah.
I mean, because it's both non-verbal communication.
Yeah,
no,
absolutely.
And kind of being able to, to respond to cues
to
from
read
the other person.
To read
the other person instinctively. And also, I mean, despite that, it is a very intimate and you're both vulnerable. It's, you're playing that piece together. You're on that high of having performed together. So I definitely think that there is truth to it. My second question also be, do you think it's healthy?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I mean, I think that it's not a coincidence that many relationships fail within the entertainment industry, and not just, classical music in general. Yeah. Because I feel like it's very hard to have a sustainable relationship in this industry. First, because of everything that we mentioned just before, but also because...
You feel close to so many people so quickly.
Yeah, exactly. Also because, you know, the lives are so irregular. You don't see each other on a regular basis. The one has a tour there, the other one has a tour there.
And what I find to be a big thing is there are always two loves in your life. There is the person you love and there is the activity you love. You always have to share them with their passion for the art.
Yeah, it's true. And I think your life changes a lot. So it's very hard to have a sustainable relationship. And I only know very few relationships where both are musicians that actually are, you know, real long-term relationships that somehow have found a common ground that works well. Yeah. And actually, for me, I don't know how it was for you, but for me growing up, I always said I cannot imagine not being with a musician. Yeah. Or at least an artist, but I think I was actually always limiting it to musician. Yeah. Like I always thought, whoever I'm with, it has to be a musician because who else is going to understand me and my life? And little spoiler, I'm not with a musician now.
And I had never put that limit, I would say, on myself. What I find interesting is that I also always thought that I was attracted to this, you know, absolutely passionate, living for the moment, the art of loving and all these things, like type of man. And I always thought that that's what I would find most attractive. And the truth is that the men I found most interesting represented the opposite. They represented stability. They represented being much more sensible than I was. And again, I would not exclude any candidate based on, you know, their passion, whether it is law or music or medicine or business or something totally different. I don't know. But there is something innately romantic about this artistic approach to love that I cannot say that I'm not attracted to, you know, on some level.
It is very romantic.
It is this kind of, you know, everything.
All or nothing.
All or nothing everything,
approach.
You know.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, I don't know who I'm going to end up with in the end. I fear, though, that because I find it so innately attractive, and at the same time, I also find it to be not necessarily the healthiest form of a relationship, I fear that that could lead to challenges in my future.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I have to say that, you know, my heart has always chosen more, I would say, guys that don't exude that, you know, insane amount of whirlwind presence type thing. So maybe my heart just knows better than my mind. I don't know. But there is something very attractive about it.
Yeah.
And I keep coming back to whenever, you know, we watch these movies about these artistic biographies with these relationships, like his one true love. But there were also, of course, 25 other women. But there was this one true love and the drugs and the everything coming together. And it is like it's so clear how dysfunctional it is.
It's a super unhealthy relationship, but the ideal that it is aspiring to is somehow admirable. Yeah. It's aspiring to this ideal of ultimate love of I accept you exactly the way you are just because you are this, you know, this person full of life.
But I think it's also important to remember it is not something to aspire to. I have to remind myself again and again, it really is not something to aspire to. There is no true long-lasting happiness that can come from something like that.
From something like that, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Interesting. All right. Okay, and the last question would be, what advice would you give me? And, you know, on the other side, what advice would I give you right now in terms of relationships?
Oh, wow.
So you can start.
Okay. I have to think about that. Maybe you start, because I still have to think about mine.
Okay. I mean, I feel that I've never seen you happier in a relationship than you are now. And
that's a good sign.
I think, and
Thankfully.
I also think that, you know, it's not like as if you were single and I would be like, yeah, and the next time think about that. The only thing that I always keep thinking as a running theme when I think about what advice I could give you is that this kind of letting yourself be truly vulnerable. And to me, vulnerability also comes with kind of losing control a bit and having voluntarily...
Not one of my strong suits, losing control.
Voluntarily choosing experiences and conversations and situations where control is not guaranteed. And also, you know, kind of choosing indulgence over conscientious decision. Something that most people do not need to hear because it comes natural to most people. But, you know, like kind of letting go of the space in your mind where everything is proper and everything is kind of tied to good consequences and getting to that part of yourself where consequences don't matter. Just because for you, you're so in control and everything is going so, you know, on a disciplined right track that you can afford to kind of balance it out with experiences that lead you more to your Freudian id and things like that. Because, I think that there is lots to discover in that realm as well. And whether you choose to go into that realm on a sexual level, on a more experience level, on a, you know, having a very vulnerable conversation with your partner level, doesn't matter. But just consciously also pursuing that because the other thing comes very natural to you.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, I think my advice would be more of an encouragement, and it ties back to what we were already talking about in this episode, to basically like stay true to yourself, to basically encourage you, to tell you that I think that you're very much on the right path, that, you know, there's nothing that needs to change actually. And although sometimes, you know, it might seem like what you said, that, you know, maybe it would be easier to pretend to be something, but actually I think you wouldn't do yourself a favor at all. So basically just keep going just the way you are. Because you're amazing.
Just the way you are.
Just the way you are. Girl, you're amazing.
Just the way you are. All right. Okay. So now let's get to the last segment, which is we each tell a story about each other.
Yes, exactly. Well, you go first.
Basically, I wanted to talk about one very famous story from my perspective, which is the famous story of Danae's first date in the village. In the village disco, I would call it.
Yeah.
And you must have been
Beach club.
You must have been 15, I would say.
Yeah, something like this, 15 or 16.
I was 11. And the whole situation was for some reason, I felt like I was a part of the date, which I really wasn't. I absolutely was not at all part of the date. But in my mind, it was happening to both of us. And I remember it was this one waiter from the restaurant that we would go to every evening. And he was like really cute. And I don't know how old he was. So in any case, you had kind of said you would meet each other at the beach club. And so we went to the beach club. And I have to say it was you, me, and a friend of yours was also there. And then you were all sitting at the bar. And we were like kind of all desperately awaiting the arrival of this boy. And then he arrived wearing one of the more flattering costumes known to man. The sleeveless look. The muscle shirt. And I remember even before we said something like, imagine if he's wearing a muscle shirt.
And he was.
And in he walked with a white muscle shirt.
It was tragic.
But he was so really cute looking. Let's face it.
It was cute.
Didn't take away anything from the excitement.
No.
So in any case, you know, I and her friend respectively go away, and I'm thinking like I'm totally part of this. You know, I'm going away, I'm giving them space, and wing-womaning the hell out of the situation. And so you're talking to him, you're like sipping on your drink, you're doing all the cute little poses and everything. And then a song comes on, a song that we both loved and we had like kind of dubbed our song. which was I Want to Dance with Somebody by Whitney Houston. And I thought to myself, oh my God, it's our song. I'm going to go ahead and share my excitement with you. So with all my grace that I had, you were sitting at the bar. I decided to walk up to you, slam your body to the back, kind of do like this little, you know, this like picture of the kiss post Second World War. I decided to engage in that pose with you and be like, Danae, our song. And I expected what I would read on your face would be excitement, like, yes, it's our song, let's go dance. To my confusion, the face staring at me was displaying horror. And it was more like...
I was like, okay, shall we dance a bit later?
And literally you said like, yeah, maybe not now. And then I was like, but it's our song. And you're like, yeah, maybe not now. Can you please go now? And I was like, super confused. Propped you back up into a vertical position. Walked away slightly offended. And then on the way home confronted you, why didn't you dance with me when our song came on? And I don't even remember what you said, but I did not understand it at all. So I wanted to use this platform to officially apologize to you for this wonderful little moment.
It's up there in the good memories.
It must have felt so good to you.
It was a good one. It was a good one. I don't think I missed out on a lot on that amazing date. Okay. I think I've now thought of like 2 little stories I want to tell. One story also is in Monivos. And it was with that said tragic experience, the boy, the first boy that ruined our relationship for 2 days. And it was before everything happened. And I remember that on that day, you weren't feeling particularly well.
I know the story.
But of course, that was not going to stop us from, finding him and everything, talking to him. And so you were really kind of out of it, but still like going there. So then we found him in that bar with his friends. I think
at that point it wasn't even we were looking for the pareja.
We were looking the group of friends, the gang for the
exactly.
gang.
It wasn't like that was the first thing something started with it.
That's
so
right.
It wasn't even
And then we found them and we were sitting with them, talking with them, and I remember you sitting on his lap. Is that true? Like something was happening. You were very close to him, where he had his arm around
like
you,
that.
something like this, and you were definitely loving it. I remember from that position where I knew that you were having the time of your life right now, you told me in German, because that was our secret language with those Greek boys, you said that I would have to leave right now or I'm going to puke on him. and I was like, whoa, okay. So we literally momentarily left the bar and started to go this kind of long walk back to our house, because from the harbor to our house, I would say you walk about
10 minutes, 15.
Well, 20 minutes kind of uphill. And we started walking and suddenly Kiveli just turns around.
I mean, the second we left their view, basically.
The second that we were
took
safe
the curve.
and really pukes big time into the, basically across the wall into the water. It was very spectacular.
I remember,
and you spent the entire night, I think, in a not
in bed,
not very comfortable position. But next day it was fine. It was one of those things.
I just had food poisoning or I don't know, something like that. I remember that.
But it was funny. And the other story that I just thought of, which I don't know if you even remember it, but it involves that one boyfriend of mine wanted to come to Greece, and we were thinking of a way to manage to pay for this flight. Oh. And because I don't know if he somehow didn't have the money for the flight or what it was, but what happened in the end, which was actually super cool of you, is you ended up giving up your miles from your Miles and More card in order for him to book a flight to be in Greece, like super short notice, unplanned. We were already in Greece, and you said, okay, he can use my miles, and then he flew on your miles to Greece and spent, I think, 2 or 3 weeks even with us. Kind of a long time in Greece, and we were on the holiday together, and that was like, you know, sister coming to the rescue.
One has to say that I don't think I have ever spent a single mile consciously, because this whole like mile system hasn't really found its way.
You must have a lot of miles accumulated then.
Probably.
Yeah, you should book some free flights.
Maybe, is there a boyfriend you want to find to Greece?
Maybe you should book a free flight for yourself now. Because I was using this regularly, which is why I was out of miles.
Right, yeah. We'll see. Interesting.
Anyway, I think that concludes the relationship episode.
Part 1. I mean,
relationships are part 1.
Yeah. So next week we're going to talk about another topic that many times we are asked to talk about, which is how did we manage to go to school and kind of have this pre-college studying at the same time? How did it work? We used to travel to a different German city every weekend and still go to school very normally during the week. We both graduated from high school, so this kind of unusual situation, I would say, which for us was the most usual thing ever, because we did it
basically
for 10 years.
How we combined school and also studying at the same time, and how that was for us. Was it extremely stressful or not? Just wait and see.
Lots of love to everybody, and see you next time. Bye.
Da, 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 da.
You're listening to The Sister Trill with Danae and Kiveli.